Can you just share your screen with?
Oh, really?
Yeah, just so you're in charge and you don't have to say next all the
Well,
time.
that means I need to pull on the slide.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You just share your screen with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just so you're in charge and you don't have to say.
And we're good to go.
all the
Well,
time.
that means I need to pull on the slide.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You just share your screen with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just so you're in charge. I think that echo was just Rashonda before her computer went on mute.
Are we ready to get started?
We are live. We have two folks here and online, and we might have some joiners here in person, 1520, but we are ready to start this public hearing.
Great. Welcome, everyone. It is 1:05 p.m. on Wednesday, March 26th. And we are here at 1520 Market Street, Suite 2000 for this hybrid public hearing, and also joined by folks online for CDA's 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Group. Can everyone see my screen? Yep. Great, thank you. So starting just with a little bit of background about CDA, and I should say I'm joined today by Rashonda Alexander, CDA's Director of Compliance, by Tom Nagel, our Public Information Officer, and by Amy Bickford, our partner at the Department of Human Services. And you'll hear more from Rashonda and Amy later in the presentation, and Tommy is going to help facilitate our public hearing today if there are any questions. But a little bit about CDA. We are a city department which serves as a clearinghouse for a variety of federal funds for the city of St. Louis, with a particular focus on HUD funds, and that's what our hearing today is about. It's our annual report to HUD, and before we submit it on March 31st, we are required to, but also want to present it to the public. A little bit about CDA's history. We were founded in 1974 to administer CDBG funds. Since then, CDBG funds have fallen in real terms, in terms of index to inflation, have kept pace in nominal terms. Essentially, in 1980, we had a $3.7 billion budget for CDBG, which kept pace with inflation. About $14 billion today. Instead, in 2024, CDBG was funded at $3.3 billion. And in fact, the continuing resolution recently passed by Congress maintained that funding at $3.3 billion. And I do want to say that's really great news for our 2025 CDBG program. It means that our grantees and sub-recipients and developers who've been awarded 2025 CDBG funds can continue administering their programs and incurring costs consistent with prior activities. So we're certainly glad that there seems to be a bipartisan coalition in support of maintaining funding for CDBG funds and other formula funds at the same level as historically. However, the slow erosion of this funding by inflation has taken a real toll. Again, if funding had kept up with inflation, the city would today be receiving over $90 million in CDBG funds a year instead of $18 million. So it does make a difference, but for the moment, we are pleased to see funding maintained. CDA, again, was founded in 1974 to administer CDBG funds, has since evolved substantially. SLBC, the St. Louis Development Corporation, was incorporated as a 501c4 in 1988, absorbing certain CDA functions. The planning department was established in 1999, and the Affordable Housing Commission was established in 2001, taking on certain CDA functions. But CDA remains a kind of hub for all of the city's development agencies and also other city departments in deploying federal funds. Then the last historical note I'll make is that HUD has been really clear with CDA and with the city of St. Louis, that we need to have funding processes, which are open and competitive, and designed to minimize automatic influence. And this was a real problem over a decade ago, when aldermen were exerting real influence on selection processes. But thankfully, since that HUD intervention between 2012 and 2014, our staff has really cherished our independence, and following merit-based, open and competitive selection processes. Next slide. So quick agenda for our CAPER presentation today. We're going to talk a little bit about citizen participation requirements, why we're holding a public hearing, a little bit about how HUD's entitlement programs and processes work, and then dig into the outcomes and the work that us and our partners have done over the past year in 2024. So a little bit about citizen participation. This CAPER, a draft version of the CAPER, was made available for public comment on March 12th, 2025 on our website as well as at our offices. We published notice in the St. Louis American inviting folks to submit that public comment. And the public again has an opportunity to provide public comment at this hearing with any comments or questions and in writing to our team. Tommy, what's the email address which they should submit those questions to?
CDA@stlewis-mo.gov.
Thank you, Tommy. And again, this is part of really an ongoing dialogue that CDA engages in with the community. And I want to talk a little bit about that by zooming out to talk about the entitlements programs process. So basically CDBG, home, if we can go back, CDBG, home, ESG, and HOPWA are all what are called entitlement programs or formula funds. And they all follow the same process, which is we create a 5-year plan. We just wrapped up our 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan and submitted our 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan for HUD's review and approval. So we create a 5-year plan and we do a lot of public comment and public input on that 5-year plan with priorities and compliance requirements. Then we produced an annual action plan, essentially explaining how we're going to implement each year of that 5-year plan. And that starts by issuing a request for proposals where we invite the public and the community to submit their proposals for funding. That request for proposals is reviewed, or the responses to that request for proposal are reviewed by CDA staff, rated by 3, every proposal is rated by at least 3 CDA staff independently. We average those out, we set funding thresholds, and ultimately that results in an appropriation of funds, which goes to the Board of Aldermen. Once we have those funds appropriated, we submit that action plan to HUD. And so again, so we create our 5-year plan, we request proposals, we create an annual action plan. And then once HUD approves that, we enter into a grant agreement with HUD, and then we implement that annual action plan. And then 90 days after the end of that calendar year, because each action plan was associated with a calendar year, we submit our consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, where we explain where we submit our outcomes. So essentially, it's a really simple structure, which is we create a 5-year plan. We create an annual action plan saying what we're going to do each year. And then after we implement that action plan, 90 days after the end of the year, we tell HUD how it evaluates us and review. Next slide. So a few words on the entitlement programs and their eligible uses. We have 4 families of funds: CDBG, which stands for Community Development Block Grant, home funds, ESG, and HOPWA. And all of these funds need to fulfill a national objective. There are 3 national objectives: activities which benefit low to moderate income households, activities which eliminate slum and blight, and activities which meet other urgent needs. Now, in general, those urgent needs are really associated with natural disasters and catastrophes, acts of God, etc. They're not any urgent need. They're an urgent need that we could not have conceivably really planned for. But that's the eligible use of CDBG funds, and then there's a lot more details as well of what the eligible activities look like, and there's certain funding caps. We can't spend more than 20% of funding on planning and administrative activities. We can't spend more than 19% of our funds on public services, which are really our most popular funding use. But that's a quick overview on CDBG funds. Home funds are similar, except they may only be used to provide housing to support low and moderate income individuals. I should note what are low and moderate income households. This is listed on our website. It's individual households which are under 80% area median income. But what is the 80% area median income? It depends on the household size. But in general, area median income for a family of four is around $85,000. So that's home funds. Home or funds are a special one-time allocation that the city got in order to respond to the effects of COVID in particular by serving four qualifying populations: individuals who are unhoused and risk of becoming unhoused, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence or sexual assault or human trafficking, and other populations requiring housing assistance to prevent homelessness. And this includes folks who are have mental health challenges or substance abuse challenges. Next, we have ESG, which stands for the Emergency Solutions Grant, and it's used to provide homeless persons or unhoused individuals with basic shelter and such as supportive services, permanent supportive housing, as well as short-term homeless prevention assistance. And again, you'll hear more about the work that the Department of Human Services does with these funds from Amy. And finally, HOPWA, or Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, which supports the housing needs of persons living with HIV/AIDS and their families. Next slide. So at a very high level, how did we do in 2024? This shows how much we spent. So in 2024, we spent about 16.3 million in CDBG funds, 600,000 in CDBG-CB funds. This is a unique source of funds, like Hallmark, that the city was appropriated for coronavirus response. And this was back in 2020. These funds are largely spent down, but we spent an additional 653,000 in these funds. 24, 894,000 in home funds, 134,000 in home art funds. We were just getting started there. 1.3 million in ESG funds and 3 million in HOPWA funds. And this is largely consistent with our expenditures in previous years. What you can see below, in the table below, is I've added in a few other sources of federal funds that CDA administers, specifically ARPA and other HUD funds, which includes Choice Neighborhoods funds, lead remediation grant funds, and certain other funding sources. And what you can see when you add these into the picture, and this table does not include funds administered by the Department of Human Services or Department of Health, which is to say does not include ESG, does not include HOPWA. But what you can see here is that CDA has dramatically expanded the disbursement of funds over the past few years, growing from $24 million disbursed in 2022 to $37 million disbursed in 2023 to nearly $59 million disbursed in 2024. So I want to just give a big shout out to our team and our partners here, because we don't do this alone. We do the paperwork and ensure all the compliance files are in order, but at the end of the day, it's our partners on the ground who are really driving the impact in terms of more affordable housing, more services for seniors, for young people, and countless other programs like the St. Louis Mural Project or Standing Free Public Wi-Fi in city parks. So focusing back in on CDBG, we can see that CDBG funds serve over 5,000 city residents over the past year in 2024. Majority of whom were Black or African American, but many of whom were white or of other races. And I think it's just a testament to the fact that 5,000 city residents, about 2.5% of city residents were directly beneficiaries of CDBG funds. And then the last slide I'll go through before I pass it over to our Director of Compliance, Rashonda Alexander. It's just a high level summary of how CDBG funds were allocated in 2024. And part of that story is that we reallocated pursuant to a substantial amendment about $5 million of funds, which had been previously allocated to activities which were no longer moving forward. We reallocated those to a variety of new projects. And so we wound up funding more than we usually do. Instead of the 3.6 million we usually fund in public services, we were able to fund $4.4 million in public services. Similarly, we were able to expand our planning and admin investments. We also added funding to improve city recreational centers and to support the housing authority in performing vacant unit turns, and much more. But here you can see the basic kind of prioritization, which is public services are really our top priority, but we are capped by HUD in terms of how much we can fund them. So we always fund up to the available amount. Then we have certain essential priorities that we always work to fund with homeowner assistance, which is in particular home repair. There's also some key funding that we provide to the LRA team in interim assistance, as well as the public improvements that I described previously to recreational centers and certain other programs. But then the bulk of the remainder after public services, after planning and admin, after home repair and support for LRA as LBC, so that work is housing production. And that's where you see the bulk of the remaining funds. And then those were in turn awarded through our 2024 no fund. And we actually have our 2025 no fund open right now, but that's a subject for a separate meeting. As today we're focused on our 2024 activities. So with that, I will turn it over to Rashonda Alexander to go over some of these activities in more detail. We can go to the next slide.
Did you want me to take over?
Yeah, if you want to share your screen, share. So I'll share his. Or I don't mind sharing mine. We'll click slideshow.
All right. So in public services, as Noel mentioned, we are subscribed to several aspects, starting with youth services, which is and was a high priority for fiscal year 2024. Some of the organizations that we awarded are listed here, including Jean Slade and Mission St. Louis, SLACO, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We provided 435 low moderate income youth with after school or summer school or case management services. With our seniors, our varying organizations range from Northside Youth and Senior Services to SLAY, our St. Louis Agency on Aging, providing almost 1,700 seniors with direct meals, transit, and some recreation. We have food access programs that are administered throughout the city via our senior services, food outreach, Guardian Angel Settlement, and the Rwanda-led Community Government Foundation. 1,616 LMI residents were impacted throughout our food services. Workforce development. We fund the St. Patrick Center and Urban League, specifically at the Save Our Sons Mission St. Louis for job training and served over 470 city residents, including 154 successful job placements. With homeless services, Hope House and Doorways provided some transitional permanent supported housing to 251 residents, including 99 homeless youth. Operation Brightside and SLACO conducted 104 cleanup beautification activities and serviced over 77 community gardens through their programs with our Operation Brightside and Keeping It Clean with Sligo. There are other operating agencies throughout the city that have done amazing work, and we could not include everyone here, but for childcare, Guardian Angel Settlement Association provided services for 243 children and parent education for 196 residents. St. Patrick's Center provided counseling and substance and mental services, substance abuse and mental and behavioral health services for 233 low moderate income residents. And Tower Grove CDC provided assistance for 48 at-risk renters, by way of landlord training. That wraps our public services aspect of our awards for 24. And moving into public improvements, we've awarded 5 different operating agencies that were Habitat for Humanity, Cornerstone, CAPER Foundation, our city rec centers, and Jubilee Community Development Corporation. So with Habitat for Humanity, they received a award for $360,000 to invest in the Hyde Park and Old North neighborhoods, and their Walkable Communities project. Cornerstone, which is one of our nonprofits in the West End, was awarded $65,500 for redevelopment costs for the 5908 Etzel Community Center. Favorite Foundation has a program specifically called the Good Shepherd Academy for Boys, where they set aside 40 childcare slots, and we provided acquisition for the building where it will be housed and pre-development costs for them. Our rec centers, the 3 in particular, are 12th and Park, Booter, and Bowl. They need a new roof, so the city recs department was awarded $1.9 million to repair those rec centers. Noella mentioned over almost 6,000 direct benefits for CDBG, but we know throughout the city, our rec centers provide services for all residents. So we wanted to make sure that those groups were taken care of, and they are currently being taken care of. Jubilee Wellness Center, they are having a creation of, no, that's not what I want to say. It's basically Jubilee Community Development Corporation has created a Jubilee Wellness Center, and they acquired the Elliott School and now are providing the country's first full circle rehab center for those suffering with substance abuse, specifically fentanyl and other things. So it's like a hybrid pilot program that's new, and we are happy to support them in their work in the city of St. Louis. Our housing home repair services, Mission St. Louis has been our leading operating agency and nonprofit provider of over 1,850 home repairs. This includes roof replacements and collapsed sewer laterals. And then we replaced HVAC and electrical panels for 209 homeowners. Harambe, Habitat for Humanity, and Mission St. Louis did in-house work for 210 minor home repair services, all with the support of the building division we work in tandem with, and they also provided lead remediation to 80 units with our lead grant. In housing production, we have a great team that's been doing wonderful work. 15 affordable for-sale homes were completed in 24. And CDA currently has over $51 million in projects for development and construction. This includes 121 for-sale homes and almost 1,400 rental units. These projects represent over $581 million in total development in the city of St. Louis. And for you looking for homes, have homeownership assistance, and it's in partnership with the Housing Partnership that has provided 17 down payment assistance grants in 24. Our nonprofit partner SLDC is wrapping up their neighborhood commercial district facade improvement program. And have 3 more in the pipeline. I really don't know why the screen is moving. The screen is moving, there we are. Let me go back a little bit. So the NCD program is wrapping up. CDA has now taken ownership of that program by way of a small pilot called the facade program, and that will be administered in 25 and has been awarded for 25. But sticking back to 24, SLGC has 3 more facade improvement programs remaining to support businesses in low mild income areas. And our partner at Justine Peterson issued over 100 microloans to help small businesses grow. That was all under economic development. With our new grant of home art of $10.6 million, we plan to use the funds in the following areas. Noel mentioned that this is for vulnerable population and providing $2 million in supportive services, rental assistance, development of affordable housing, and the admin costs associated with it to be administered over 6 years.
Yes, and many of these funds are already committed to specific projects, but an additional $4.9 million is currently available for applications through our NOFA. That'll be open through June 13th, and there will be a public workshop for anyone interested in applying for these funds on April 24th, here at CDA campus.
Thank you, Noel. Up next, we have our Emergency Solutions Grant Director, Amy Bickford, to take over. Amy, you can just tell me next slide, and I'll be happy to drive for you.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
So Emergency Solutions Grant is roughly 1.59 each year. I mean, it increases by about $1,000 to $2,000, which does not keep up with the cost of living. But regardless, we are doing great work. ESG allows us to fund projects for emergency shelter, street outreach, prevention, rapid rehousing, and data collection. And this is a view of one of the projects being benefited. Many departments have actually worked on Jefferson Spaces, which is our tiny home emergency shelter community, which has 100 tiny homes for the homeless. Next slide. So this will go over a little bit about what we did in 2024. So we always fund Institute for Community Alliances. They are our HMIS lead agency, which is basically the organization that manages our data system where all of our subrecipients input all their data. In our emergency shelter category, in the past year, we were funding that list of organizations. So AmeriCorps, Covenant House, Gateway 180, Magdala Foundation, Peter and Paul, Our Ladies Inn, St. Martha's Hall, and St. Patrick's Center. Those programs served the total number of people listed in this box. So the total number being 2,205 individuals that came in and through shelter in 2024. And then these are the other 3 program types that we are funding. So for rapid rehousing, which is a program that will allow us to support families and individuals in getting permanent housing. They receive rental assistance, utility assistance, and case management services. Last year, we funded Upworth, Gateway 180, and the Women's Safe House. And they served 30 households. And I'll just note that all of those contracts were like half-year contracts. They straddled. So that's why it's not very many households. So 30 adults and 35 children for a total of 65 people being impacted by those programs. In our homeless prevention category, we had Criminal Justice Ministries, Doorways, and the Salvation Army, which supported 287 people with services. And street outreach, unfortunately, we didn't fund anybody over the last year, but we did allocate a very tiny portion to the Homeless Services Division for outreach. And the numbers are super, super low. But that simply is also because we only started doing that like in December. So we just didn't get very much, we didn't get a lot of data, which should show up next year for us. So this is the total of all programs combined. So in 2024, 2,562 people were recipients of some sort of ESG funding or programming. And here's just a little bit of a breakout of demographics. So the first one is an age breakout. Obviously, the bulk of our people that we serve are 25 and over, but we did serve 231 people that were ages 18 to 24. And I'd say a very large majority of those were actually unhoused and like on their own. So they were funneling through programs like Covenant House or receiving housing assistance. And then the under 18 are 399 children. All of those were accompanied by an adult. And then just a little breakout of some of our other data that we captured. We recorded that there were 92 veterans that benefited from programs. People experiencing mental health illness was about 859 people. 585 people are experiencing substance use addictions. Other disabilities that people may have, we captured that data, and that was 846 people. 414 individuals were fleeing domestic violence or experiencing it. 60 people with HIV and AIDS that were also homeless benefited from ESG funding. And then we had 114 people that were over the age of 65. And that is all I have to share about ESG. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Our last awarded grant is HOPWA. It's a program specifically that stands for Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, and it's led by Sylvia Jacksonville. She was unable to attend today, and I will be presenting on her behalf. The grant funded two specific organizations, Doorways and Peter and Paul Community Services. Doorways is an interfaith nonprofit organization that provides housing related supportive services to improve the quality of life and health outcomes for people living with or affected by HIV and AIDS. And the Peter and Paul Community Services provides housing and supportive services to those individuals who are homeless, especially those who experience mental illness and also live with HIV and AIDS. A total of 699 persons were supported through this work between Doorways and Peter and Paul. Oh, and she said to make mention of a goal exceeding of short-term rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. The goal was 450, but the actual amount of people supported were 496. The table that you see is a report for the one-year goals in 2024 for the number of households that used CAPER funds and activities. This concludes the presentation for HOPWA and also our CAPER report. It's time for your public comment, and we are going to have Tom Nagel take it over and let us know who is in the chat that may want a question answered.
Sure. Hi, everyone. If you would like to join us, please just raise your hand and we can bring you on live. Trenton, would you make sure that the chat is open for panelists as well as attendees? And folks can also just put questions in the chat. I see that it looks like our attendees are CDA and city staff. If you do have comments or questions, we can probably just do that during staff meeting. We want to make sure that this is an opportunity for the public to make their comments. If there are any comments or questions. You might count to 60. See if there are any comments or questions. Again, written comments are being accepted at cda@stlewis-mo.gov. I believe that messages, that email address is also in our notice and online, along with the CAPER document. The CAPER document again is on CDA's website, which is stlewis-mo.gov/CDA. And if you scroll, look for plans and reports. It's reports, notice, and RFPs. You'll find the CAPER on that page.
All right, with that, I think I'll wrap us up and want to say once again a big thank you to our team and partners for all your work. For anyone who watches this online after the deadline for public comment is passed, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you do have any questions or comments. We really will be happy to engage with you all on an ongoing basis. You can always reach out to us at cda@stlouis-mo.gov. Did I get that correct?
You got it?
Great. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, STL TV. Thank you, Amy, for your time, and get back to work.